Hello and welcome, friends, to another. It's going to be. I would probably consider this one of those tough conversations. I think that we'll file them. We'll file them under that bucket, but needed conversations. I'm proud of this segment of the podcast that we do. Welcome again, of course, the Cyber Mettle podcast. As always, I still last time I checked, Omar Sangarima, joined by Alyson Laterman.
Are you sure it's you? It's not AI? I have to know. Can you put the three fingers in front of your eye? In front of your
It's gonna
face?
happen, right? Like, ask me about the great leader of DPRK and see if I can say something bad about them under duress. That's it's near and dear to my heart. But yeah, so
my goodness. Well, no, I agree with you. This is one of those tough conversations because honestly, it's one of those things that we know we need to talk to about our loved ones. This is kind of the other side of the spectrum. So in a prior episode, we talked about keeping your children cyber safe online. This is the other part for all of those in that mid that have kids and parents. This is really looking at how do we keep our senior citizens and our family members safe online. And even not even online, even on their phones, right? And how technology is being used to exploit the most vulnerable. And with us today, we have an expert. So we have Karow with us. She is the founder of ZoraSafe, and she will give you her background, which is amazing and wonderful. And we are absolutely honored to have you here with us today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm glad to be here. So I've worked in cybersec and tech product development for over 20 years at this point. I started out in the cybersecurity sector, working on the Hypergator at UF. I helped build the restricted data environment, and I was the identity access manager for the supercomputer. And then from there, I went on to managing dev teams and project development for DOT, then Apple, then did a project for the White House. Then I was managing a team for AppSec for GuidePoint security. And I was with GuidePoint when I left to create ZoraSafe.
And tell us a little bit about ZoraSafe and what it is.
So we've created a mobile platform to protect people from scams. And we catch real-time scams in the form of calls, text messages, you name it, catch them in real time, and then we can flag that and bring up a gamified micro-learning. So not only can we block a scam in real time, but we can teach you exactly what you ran into, what to avoid in the future, and what to look out for. We also have within the app things like a family passphrase that rotates every 10 minutes. And we have another section that I call the Zora Watch. It's like a neighborhood watch, but for scams and fraud. One of our biggest issues with this area is that the vast majority go unreported. We estimate around 46%, I think, goes unreported. So that $16 billion that we lost as Americans to fraud and scams last year is actually an underreported number, which is scary. So to combat the shame, I want to incentivize people to spread word. You know, if you run into an IRS impersonation scam, tell us about it. And we make it easy. So in the Zora Watch section of the app, you go in there and you see all the scams that have been reported in your area, and you can thumbs up. Yeah, I saw this one. Thumbs down. I haven't seen this one. And not only does that give you points, because we're gamifying everything, and then those points add up and reward you in different ways, but it also incentivizes you protecting your own community. A lot of scams can go from one retirement community to another retirement community and do the exact same thing because on average, our threat databases, our OSINT threat databases, they take about a week on average for us to save something as a malicious to flag it, right? That's thousands of people who are affected by that same scam in that week. So we're trying to not only cut down on the time frame for alerting, but also incentivize people to talk about it, to not feel that shame behind falling for scams because everyone is falling for them. And when I go and I talk to communities about this stuff, it surprises even them when they open their mouth that, yes, my neighbor fell into everybody in the room knows somebody who's been scammed or has been scammed, or, you know, it's such a prevalent problem now that we're just trying to incentivize people talking about it.
Well, that's exactly it. That's the point of our tough conversations, which is you may think it's uncomfortable, but we need to be adults and we need to have them because by making it transparent and getting rid of the shame and the isolation, that's the only way to be able to move forward and to be able to combat this, right? And
Absolutely.
To help protect the ones we love. So.
Right. And I mean, if you think about it, if you don't report it, then we have no way to know that we need a barrier for, the funds in this area, or, we have to be able to build our security defenses off of that knowledge. So if it's unreported, then we're missing a giant gap.
And so to that point, well, let me do the disclaimer real quick, and then I'm going to jump on that point. So our normal disclaimer, right? Though I'm a lawyer and we have two cybersecurity experts on this podcast today, we are not your lawyer or cybersecurity experts for the purpose of the podcast, but we are here to share the knowledge, the experience, and practical takeaways that you can apply to your life to start these conversations, to work with your loved ones, to remove that barrier, remove the shame, be part of the solution, and stop hiding in the shadows and allowing this problem to continue on basically untouched. So I'll jump into what, we were talking kind of beforehand in the green room, as we call it. And literally just this week, a friend had called with her father, who was visiting the daughter in that state and a couple of weeks ago, and was taking care of business that he needed to, and got a random phone call from somebody claiming to be an investigator. And of course, this person had all of the personal information of, I know where your family lives, all the nonsense, and claimed that he had been in a car accident and had sideswiped a motorcyclist and gave a date and a time and a location. And the person was like, I know I'm upper 70s type of situation. And was like, I know my memory's not good, but I know I wasn't in a car accident. I said, well, it sounds like it was fraud. So let me do some digging on here. And so I called the police station for them and said, I spoke to the lieutenant, I spoke to the records custodian. I said, hey, here's the date, time, the general area. Could you find anything at all? This is where his GPS aligns. He wasn't in any of these areas because we, of course, first searched the GPS of, let's check your phone. Where did you go? Look at your calendar. Nothing aligned with what they had said. So we said, let's call the cops. So we call the cops. We go through the whole thing. There's not even been an accident that we can see from 2 weeks ago in those areas. So I called back and let him know. And the police said, make sure you call back so we can put a report down with the phone numbers. Now, he hadn't had a chance to yet because he had gone back home, but then got another phone call like 2 weeks later, claiming to now be an insurance company, not his insurance, of course, right? But this other side allegedly. And starting down that path and everything they know. And he just said, I was not in an accident, talked to my lawyer. And so I had suggested, I said, do yourself a favor. Write down everything you remember. Your memory will not be as fresh as it is right this moment. Like tomorrow, it's not going to get better.
Right.
Go look at your logs, the fact that there's no dent on your car, like just for yourself, make that your Bible, like your basis of fact and truth, so that no matter whatever calls you get, you are not swayed by emotion of, well, maybe I just don't remember it, or maybe that could have happened, or I don't know, whatever that situation is. So to your point, I was like, and then you turn it into the cops so that they can get the phone numbers from the people and the dates and the times and the tracking and see what they can do to at least make a record so that there can be something put in place.
We have a built-in crisis response pathway in the app. So if you've run into something or you need to report it, it's like a couple steps and it'll walk you through it. But we also have it on our website free under our help or resources section. People can go in there and search what type of issue they've run into, sextortion or whatever. And it gives them the step-by-step who you need to contact, what you need to do. Because you're right. And every single type of these things needs to be reported to a different area. So it gets confusing, But yeah, I mean, and that kind of thing, the sad truth is that his data was probably purchased, and that included his car, locations he's visited, or where he commonly goes. I mean, all of that's included. It's easy to buy, and he was targeted because of it. And because he's picking up the phone, he's getting them over and over. Okay, so and he probably has a flag on his data broker profile that he's responsive. So he probably responded to a sweepstakes or actually answered questions when a pollster called. Those are the kind of people who are tagged and then get repeat targets because they're the kind of people who answer the phone. They trust easily and they communicate.
It's funny you say that. I was like, stop answering the phone. And I've always been when I was in private practice, my clients always have my cell phone. I used to get calls all the time from numbers I didn't know, and it was potential business calls. But I have noticed there has been a significant shift in the very opposite direction, where it is mostly spam, even after reporting my number on Florida's do not call list, right?
I don't think I think my phone number is
don't answer
a few places, but mostly for like business purposes. And I don't get business phone calls. I mean, they're 9 times out of 10 scams. I mean, And honest to goodness, if you're really honest with yourself, how many people do you know that might need to contact you on the phone but can't text you or can't call you again or can't call your sister to text you and tell you, why isn't she answering the phone?
Yeah.
It's so
Or leave a real voicemail. I know there's people that are
exactly a voicemail.
anti-voicemail, but like,
Although you can't trust those too. I don't know.
that's true too. That's true too. And that's actually, so it's funny you say that. That's exactly why this is a conversation I had last night. I no longer, so I was talking to my husband about this. I no longer have my voice on my voicemail. I just use the
Good.
computer. This number's not available because I don't want them to take that. Now, granted, there's other ways to get my voice. Obviously, we're on a podcast,
Sure, but
not
that's an
that
easy
hard.
one. Most
But that,
people
right.
don't think about their voicemail message, and your voicemail message is less than 3 seconds. So if
That's
you
right.
say, hey, this is Kat, leave a message, that's longer than 3 seconds. They've already got your voice enough
That's right.
to do it,
And I'd hate
And
them to call
that's
my
all they
kid
need
and
for an
say, hey,
AI
it's mom.
impersonation. And those
That's right.
AI impersonation scams are highly effective. And it is incredible how many people have been affected by them here in the state of Florida alone, but all over the world, we're having issues with this. I mean, it's becoming very mainstream at this point. And
Was it?
I still think a lot of retirees don't even realize how good the AI impersonations are. When I talk to them in meetings, they actually still think, oh, well, I'd be able to tell if it's my grandchild. You absolutely cannot. I work in this field and I cannot tell the difference sometimes. It's not that easy anymore. We are not living in the era of the Nigerian prince scams that actually, you could tell. This is a very different beast that we're having to combat now.
It is. And you had mentioned earlier in the green room, I think it was like 70%. It's like 70% effective, these AI
Yeah.
scams that are.
More effective than ever. The human manipulation or human creation of the scams was far less effective. The AI being able to create, manipulate hyper targeted manipulation, hyper targeted focusing on, AI deep fakes. It's and honestly, it's an incredible degree how effective they are. It's shocking.
Well, and you had mentioned, couple that with, like you said, being able to buy the data. I think that's the other part of this, right? Is that
Right.
all the privacy stuff we give up voluntarily to be online, on our social media, on any of these platforms where we think we're doing it to connect, but really we're
Right.
just handing over info. And to your
We're
point,
selling ourselves.
we're selling ourselves. And to your point, it's so easy for them to get a very targeted list. So if you are a victim of, we'll say,
Right.
assault, they know that those are the buttons to push. If you are a veteran with disabilities,
Yep.
they know what buttons to push, right? They know what is going to resonate with you. And so it goes back to that original emotional manipulation, just at a higher level with better tools to effectuate
Absolutely.
a better
I
result
mean,
for them.
think about that. You can purchase a list of veterans with PTSD, and then I can go and I can make a targeted campaign to send, hey, we have a fundraiser for, veterans, whatever. And then you're screwing people over, but it's a hyper targeted and they're selling these lists by your vulnerability. So it is
So gross.
very easy to target because they're selling you by your vulnerability. You choose the vulnerability, moment or the issue in your life or the moment of financial stress. It's those moments that they're trying to create to push you into doing whatever, to sending them money or to purchasing their protection or whatever. And, we're seeing a lot actually of scam companies, that are actually going back to people. So they'll scam you and then they'll call you and be like, oh, I heard you got scammed. We have this scam protection thing that's going to be, and then they'll do it again.
That's horrid.
For real, like how messed up is that?
And that is why reporting needs to happen. I'm sorry, Omar.
No. I mean, the reporting needs to happen, but at a certain point, though, like, and I know, Kat's fighting the good fight here, but like, reporting in what sense? It's not technically illegal to do almost like 90% of the stuff that we talked about, which
Correct.
is I think still bonkers. I love the incentivization, right, and trying to take away the stigma from
Yeah.
it because even if you boil it down to from the enterprise side, it's we want folks to tell us that, hey, we clicked on this weird phishing link. We'd rather they tell us so we can get ahead of it versus
Right.
having it pop on our AV and then having to then chase, be behind it. So
Right.
it's really, which is why there's, a giant, I think, upswell in the community of being anti-phishing campaign. Don't target people, don't shame them, don't turn it into a gotcha. Make it, like you said something about the point in time training. That's brilliant. I think there's no better time. It's never going to
Right.
sting
When
or
you're
sink
actually
in
running into the problem.
1,000%. And you'll remember it. It'll be that memory trigger that it'll really implant itself going versus, oh, I did that last week. Who cares? But sadly, on a grand scale, like, it's not illegal to gather this data. It's not illegal. It's highly immoral. It is a gray market at best. It's unsavory. But do you foresee that changing at all, or is that
I
something
certainly
where we
hope
just have
so.
to? Yeah.
I hope so, honestly. At this point, we have over 4,000 companies here in the United States that legally sell your data.
Yep.
The vast majority of them do not label themselves as data brokers. So we cannot track their lobbying funding. We cannot track anything related because they're not listed as data brokers, right? We have legal rights when it comes to data. Not much. We have the right to tell them not to sell our data. We have the right to see our data profiles. But if you are not labeled as a data broker company, you don't have to follow those, right? Some of our companies, if certain states have stricter rules, like California has some stricter rules now, which is good. And we're seeing some countries go that direction. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Denmark a couple of years down the road, what's happening with their data privacy, because I feel like they've always been a little bit ahead of us when it comes to the cybersecurity and data world. They were ahead of us in trying to combat hacking. They had better, let's just be honest, they had better teams to combat that early on than we did. Our
And they needed to
FBI
be.
went
I
to
think
them for
it was a
advice.
function of, like, where they were geopolitically.
Absolutely.
Like, it's almost where you hear about, like, the Finns being good at anti-hacking. Why? Right? Like, think about
Denmark, for one example, it became a haven for a lot of hackers, right? So they had to learn very early how to combat that for their own protection. And they actually, totally separate subject, but I went down I read a book about this recently, but it was interesting. They started a kind of new way of doing it, and they hired neurodivergent hackers, and they partnered them with police. So each team had police officers, but also a hacker, like, there, who knew what he was doing enough to be able to direct them. And our FBI went and studied their process and came back and started changing things at the FBI to do that. But yeah, they've always been a little bit ahead of us with regards to this stuff. And data privacy is one of those areas. They're making each person own their own data, which we'll see how that turns out. But right now, we have so many companies that are apps that are just selling you. You are the product. But the problem here is that the everyday person does not connect the data that's being collected on that phone with how it's actually affecting them, right? They don't realize that some scammer is going and buying their data, and it's aggregated their probability to fall for this and their probability to fall for that, all off of the data you are allowing to be collected, right? So that's kind of the problem that we have. But we also have this system that's forcing us digital and gives you these AUPs that are 3 pages long that nobody freaking reads, right? Nobody's going to read it. There's no easy to understand label that says this is the data that's collected about you. This is what we're doing with it. This is who we're selling you to. There's nothing like that, right? I mean, in the 70s, we fought for regulations in banking and transparency in banking, and we wanted food labels on our food to understand the ingredients we're putting in our body, but we don't understand the data that is collected about us and sold about each and every one of us. That is abhorrent. We have our rights being taken away piece by piece, and people don't even realize it. Fourth Amendment's a great one. Let's go right straight to that. Your Fourth Amendment, there is like no such thing anymore because they can just go buy your data. You as a lawyer know this. Every day there are court cases where it's like, well, we saw you Googled this on, 7 years ago. You Googled how to kill your wife, and now it's happened. So now we're arresting, So it's like, what? Okay.
Well, and actually there's a whole line of cases.
Like, I want to put that out there as a disclaimer, right? We're doing disclaimers. Like, don't do that. Like, let's just
well.
But, no,
and also, don't put it into the AI chat engines either.
Oh, I've seen those where it's like where they go, what do I do now? right? There was
Right.
one case of somebody who, unfortunately, not to make light of this, like killed the girlfriend, I think, and then goes, "What do I do now?" And the thing that was sickening and sad and just like fatalistically funny was
I
that
think I
the
saw
AI
that one.
came back and was trying to say, "Oh, it wasn't your
It's
fault. Like,
okay, buddy.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
okay. We'll get through this." And it's like, son,
Yeah.
like,
That's your
no,
AI ethics guardrail coming in. It's
right?
okay, buddy. Like, what is
100%.
Right.
that?
Like,
Yeah.
these things happen. No, no, not to many.
No. Yeah.
Not to
No,
all of
no,
us.
no, they
Well,
don't.
actually,
Yeah,
sadly,
they do.
way
But
too
yeah,
many. Yeah. That's a
That's
whole
true.
nother.
Yeah.
the AI says they do. So I should believe that,
That's
right?
and it's but and
It
I love that you
happens.
brought that up,
Good God.
the prevalence then of almost a voluntary surveillance state
Oh, absolutely.
because
No, there is
tons.
no,
Yeah.
we are fully in a surveillance state. I mean, if anybody thinks they're not, they are smoking something I need, because we are
Yeah.
definitely in the middle of one. I mean,
They're on that loud
we're
pack,
in the
I
middle
get
of
you.
one. And the honest to God truth here is that we have, let's just call it what it is. We have a tech bro world who have created companies that are selling pieces of you.
Yep.
You are the product.
Yep.
You are being bought and sold. You are being mass manipulated at scale. And that same data is sold to scammers. It's sold to insurers. It's sold to mortgage companies. It's sold to your political campaigns. We are watching the world become more and more divisive. And it's happening because they're manipulating
And
each and every one of you off of the data.
systemically divisive, right, Kat? Like, it's
Absolutely.
done on purpose, and it's almost and the rate of
It's done
acceleration.
entirely on purpose.
Exactly. Yep. And
Our
how do you
systems are meant to keep you scrolling,
Sure.
right?
That's
And
right.
that is what keeps you angry, what keeps you evocative. What's evocative keeps you scrolling, and they
That's
want
right.
that, right? So they're going to give you more and more of it. After a while, a conversation that used to happen over a dining room table about politics or across a fence, you can't even have them anymore because people aren't even debating off the same set of facts. They're debating off of their own manufactured realities.
Yep.
And
Oh,
we are not
sure.
even looking at events the same way. I mean, I actually had a talk with my dad about this the other day. He's in that generation that still watches cable news. I don't, but
Yep.
I probably Google more my news than I watch the news. But he watches the news,
Same.
and I was there when, this is a little off topic, but when that woman was shot by ICE who was in her
Sure.
car. And one news station that he was watching showed it in one perspective, and aggressively one perspective, and in a frame of reference for the video where it looked like she was, targeting you to take you down with her
Yep.
car.
She was
And I
crash test
watched it
dummies,
from
yeah.
3 other places, and none of those
Look like it.
looked like
Right.
it. And it was just such a prime example of how our information is manipulating each and every one of us, and people don't even understand it. They don't see it because it's their own reality. I mean, it's just
We were
scary.
told this, and it was what's crazy to me, and this is, and again, kind of touching on coming from a different background into cyber. Many moons ago, studying for a philosophy degree that my parents were very worried about. Right? Like they were absolutely. They're like, listen, we're
I
like
bet.
we're
That's like me in
immigrants from
theater.
cotton butter.
Yeah.
Like,
No, why
what
are
are you
you doing
doing?
that?
Like what are you doing? Like this is you want to talk about privilege? We didn't bust our humps to have you go to school for philosophy. What are you doing? One of the things I always, it was like mind blowing for me, at least at that formative age, was philosophy of film and going in and seeing and understanding the power of images, the power of symbol, read simulations and simulacra, right? Like all the classics where you're like, studied the Leni Riefenstahl videos and things that she put out there. And it's like, I just remember sitting in class going, wow, this was nuts. This was wild. Oh, wow. I'm glad it's in the past, right? I'm glad we're
Right.
past all that
Right.
nuttiness.
Right.
Hey,
Is it though?
modernity.
Yeah.
Well, there we are. And
Uh,
then, but wait a second, not 20 years after that, because that was, again, many moons ago. 20 years after that, we're smack dab in the middle of a digitally accelerated version of that. Because as you said,
Yes.
depending on where you get your sources, and then on top of that, if you want to go upstream, then you're targeted for either political ads or stuff to buy, again, based on all of the information that you're providing simply by
Right.
making choices in
Absolutely.
any sort
Your
of
everyday choices, your
yeah,
everyday visits in your car.
period.
And I think that's the other thing. I've written on a blog for years now, and I did a whole series on the data broker industry. And I wrote like an article on each section that pissed me off, basically. And it was like, these are the car companies that are selling your location data. And these are, and it just was like, golly. And I got to the point where it was like, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of watching all these people be taken advantage of and not understand that they're actually downloading the app that's collecting that information, but they don't see that connection, right? And we have to be able to, at some point, help people from themselves. And I know that sounds silly, but if you find it easier to go get an app that tells you what the weather is right now, and you don't care that it's selling your information, then okay, well, I guess that's that. But like the vast majority of us, we don't
I think, to be fair,
realize
we don't have
that's
the little
happening.
old weather channel anymore with the little digital sun that would
Okay,
go.
you're right. You're right. Right. Well, and if
No,
you
but
ask Google, then it's telling you exactly where your location is when it looks it up
right.
too. So I mean,
That's right.
we're kind of, but that's the other part of this is that we are forced digital. We are more and more being forced digital. I think we have, it's either 12 or 14 states within the United States that are no longer required to accept our own legal tender, cash, right?
I have
Think
found that
about the
incredibly
retiree
disturbing.
population. My dad
Yeah.
is a prime example. He still does everything in cash because he doesn't trust anything. We were at a coffee shop and I think it was like, I can't remember. It was either Texas or Virginia, and they didn't take cash. And he was like, "Well, that's it. I'm out." And I mean, I felt for him because it was like that we're being
Yeah.
forced digital, and that's a
That's right.
prime example of a population that absolutely should not be, and yet they are.
That's right. So what would you recommend for us to be able to speak to our families and to explain to them things to look for, that to make them feel comfortable. And so it's not like, oh, we think you're frail and weak and you can't handle this and you're going to get scammed. But how do you do it from a position of respect and
I think
love?
that right off the bat is just having that conversation at the dinner table on a regular basis. It's not a one-off. It's not a once a year we're going to talk about your cybersecurity. Have it every week on Friday. Have you guys got any scams this week? It was crazy. I got like 5 text message scams and have the conversation. If you have kids, actually talk to them about sextortion because you do not want to be one of the parents that has a kid who commits suicide because they do not want to talk to you about it. How horrible would that be? And the same thing with retirees. You have people who are afraid to tell you that they've been scammed. So no anger involved. Now, if you've been scammed, I want to know because we need to figure out how to avoid it. Confidently have that conversation and make them know that everyone is getting scammed. This has nothing to do with your capability, your understanding, your age. Absolutely nothing.
That just makes you like a shiny target, though. Honestly, it has that, for them, but it makes them more
They are.
appealing
That
to
needs to
someone,
be known as well.
Yeah.
Some of them feel it. You're getting all the scam calls, it, but they
But
need
I
to
get like
know that
10 a
they're
day.
targeted
I
as
just don't
well.
answer
There's a
the
reason
phone,
why I go to the villages and I talk in the villages and tell them they're the number one most targeted zip code in America. They need to know that.
Yep.
You have to know it to be able to fight it.
That's right. And that's the thing is it's coming from using information as power to be able to make those
Absolutely.
decisions and to be able to move forward confidently in your own space, in your own environment and feel good about that. One of the things that I talk to people about, whether it's with young people or anything else, is always just if you get a call and you answered the phone and you feel a certain way that you need to just slow down, honor
Breathe.
those feelings,
Pause.
do not respond, absolutely pause, reflect, all the things we don't do in society today. But if you feel a certain way, that's the point of the call is to evoke some sort of emotional response where your logic part shuts down. And so if you find you're in that state, just take a step back.
Well,
You know what? Let me get
it's
your number. I'll have
important
somebody call you back. Whatever. Don't answer their questions.
No.
You
It's
don't
also
owe.
important to remember that there is nothing that requires that level of urgency. Nothing in your lives actually require that level of urgency. If your daughter is in a car wreck and she's at the hospital, okay, hang up the phone and drive to the hospital, right? There's no, okay, yeah, my son got kidnapped because he, what? Bullshit. I'm sorry. Like, okay, I'm going to hang up and I'm going to call my son. Have a good day. I mean, there is literally no situation, even that investigator calling you for side swiping a thing. All right, send me a letter.
That's exactly it.
You a
That's
letter.
right.
I'm sorry.
That's right.
There's no government agency who's going to call you and have an agent spend their day calling people to warn you that some baloney. You're going to have a warrant on your thing and not realize it because nobody's doing that. So
I
think
remember
about it logically when you're in the moment, right?
And as I
Nothing
explained to him,
requires that level
I
of
said,
urgency.
look, well, that's exactly it. And I explained to this person, I said, look, let me give you some peace of mind from the lawyer side of things. For you to be charged with the crime of leaving the scene of the accident, one, there had to be an accident.
Right.
Two, you knew about,
would
and
know.
three, you made an actual choice to leave. So if you're telling me I didn't even know and I don't think it happened, they can't
Then
prove
that's enough.
any of
That's
that.
enough to hang up the phone right there. Your
That's correct.
intuition is enough to hang up the phone.
That's correct.
It's just building that pause in, honestly, is the important part, and
That's right.
remembering to. And they're bypassing that with the urgency. And it's hard to beat that, honestly.
And that's pretty much one of the few ways that we can consistently hold on to right now where we can prove a scam. Because to your point, Kat, with AI taking away that janky English from the Nigerian prince scams,
right, exactly.
or the weird,
they're way too convincing.
The
spoofing of the
Cyrillic.
phone numbers, the spoofing of the return addresses. There's so many ready-made tools out there now where you can be technical or not, and you can just weaponize these things tomorrow.
Yeah.
That it's truly that spider sense that tingles and says, hold on.
You need to trust that.
There's no, absolutely. And there's not, like you said, I want to foot stomp that statement where that urgency, there's nothing that requires, if it's anything that truly requires like a big spend of money or some big activity,
it's not urgent.
9 times out of 100, you can take a beat and go, wait a second.
Absolutely.
Is this a serious thing? Like, how am I going to deal with it? Right.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and honestly, I think the AI impersonation ones and the long con romance scams are really the big ones. And the long cons, like you're talking about, and the big ones we're seeing in retirement communities. And like I said, romance scams, it's a misnomer because it's not a relationship based on romance. It's just a relationship over time is what they're referring to.
Yeah, it's just
and
companionship.
So a lot of those look like, hey, I invested in this crypto and it was a great investment. Look at how much money I made. You should invest in the same crypto. And then you talk about it for 3 weeks before you invest. And then you lose your life savings. I mean, but those, the urgency ones, if you can breathe, just pause and hang up the phone and think about it, because that's enough. The long ones are a little harder.
But the crypto scams also it's a big one because and it's one thing to know about this in our day to day and kind of what we both do. It's another thing. I was watching Louis Theroux documentary on Netflix, and he was going around with a lot of these the manosphere folks.
I started that.
Yeah,
he deconstructed. It was bananas, but I highly recommend it because it's just like it was bananas. It was outright. But the thing that gets me, and the point I promise I'm weaving this in. I promise I'm getting there. Is like the crypto scams where it's the long con, and it doesn't even matter if they can point you to somebody that's quote unquote like internet famous, because a lot of times even those internet famous folks fully knowing that they're selling snake oil. And hey, I have a group that talks about great stock tips and we're going to teach you all these crazy ways to outperform the market. You go in, because one of these things in this documentary was the documentarian did, I put in 500 and I took 50 out by the time it was done. And you scale that. And that's how these folks themselves make money, being influencers, sadly. And then also it's just a churn of more,
well, and we're
dark
seeing
money.
I mean, and you know this, but we're seeing an increase in bot farms and all of these things to increase those things. We're seeing fake social influencers and fake, media influencers. I
Acceleration.
ran into one yesterday, actually. That was a fake influencer on Facebook. And I'm like, I look at the profile and it's like, what are you talking? I mean, come on. Some of them are convincing.
Reddit is
Some are like,
rife with this stuff at this point where
it's ridiculous.
because even if it's poorly done, this is what's perversely incentivizing for the situation. Even if it's poorly done on Reddit, you'll get enough legitimate people that are going, wow, this is garbage. I'm mad this is even here. Get this AI slop out of here.
Right.
That's generating the type of activity that this thing is meant to harness and instigate and then, farm karma off of in Reddit's case. So it's like, guys, gals, friends, what are you doing? If you see it, ignore it. But no, I have to. I'm on the internet and I need to let somebody know that I'm
Man.
pissed off.
You don't want to
So
miss off on anything. So we gotta, yeah. I mean, the sad truth is, I hope maybe that this world that we're living in and how it keeps getting aggressively worse with, you can't tell what's real and how it's affecting everybody, that it's actually going to force people to be less online, less on tech.
Yeah.
I'm already in that generation of people who want to disconnect from all of my tech when I'm on vacation because I survive behind it all the time. So, and I see that more and more. There's a new cell phone company, or I can't remember what it's called, like Noble or something, where they're actually incentivizing not using the phone. And I'm like, I love that because that's great for kids. We grew up in a generation where we didn't have cell phones all the time. I didn't get my first cell phone until I went to college.
Same here.
Same.
And that was a flip phone. You know what I mean? That's back
I remember.
and I was fixing those flip phones. That was my first job in college, was replacing microphones and flip phones.
Yeah, that's
I
awesome.
love it.
This was back in the generation where we still had AOL chat rooms. Okay, so like,
Yep. And GeoCities.
yeah, exactly. But the
I love
internet was
GeoCities.
not. It wasn't the scary thing that it is now because we knew the dark web. I dipped my toes in the dark web a million years ago. And yeah, it's scary. But now the dark web's everywhere. Let's be honest. It's like,
We are the dark web at this point.
But
Yeah.
everyone's literally in the dark web.
Yeah.
And everyone's information is there. You can't escape it at this point. Yeah, that was a bit of a segue. But yeah, it's a different world than when we grew up. And honestly, I do think it's just going to turn into this. We don't trust any tech because the tech companies are taking advantage of everyday people. I mean, on massive scale. But, all I'm doing is raising my voice and nobody's listening.
You're shaking your fist at the sky, but like it's these companies that are knowingly doing this and profiting off of it and having outsized returns and then funding whatever the heck projects that they want to fund for the next round. We're gonna have data centers on the moon. I don't know if you heard.
The PayPal bros, that
whole mafia.
PayPal mafia, all of them have gone to found companies that sell and buy data. All of them are invested by VCs who only invest in tech companies that buy and sell data. I mean, it's a different world that we live in. And Facebook is a prime example. Meta, they know for a fact that 38% of their ARR comes from scam advertising.
And they're fine with it.
They know that.
They're naturally.
They have gone to court. They have notified Senate about it, and they know they make too much money off of it. So screw it. Yeah. We're going to let people get scammed because we're only here to sell your data. It's depressing.
But you know what? That's why it's the tough conversation. Like, we need to be real, and I'm cautiously hopeful, I guess, that we will start. Hopefully, there'll be a bit of retraction to where we go, wait a minute, and start using our critical thinking skills and try to. I mean, genie's out of the bottle, toothpaste out of the tube, whatever analogy you want to use, right, for our data and our privacy. At some point, being able to say, you know what, I'm not going to provide that access. I am going to get off these areas.
Right.
I am going to go back to human-to-human contact.
Accept that AUP. You're
Correct.
Absolutely right. And let's be honest, the vast majority of people are going to go for ease of their life and making their lives easier rather than harder. So they're going to accept the AUPs if it makes their life easier. And when we see that across the board.
Well, and we do that with the calendaring stuff. Everybody emails me. They're like, oh, where's your Calendly link? I'm like, oh, sorry, not to name it, but where's your booking link? Whatever it is.
Right.
Insert company
name
here.
And shame, man. Listen.
Well, I'll say they're all the same. Right. And so I'm like, I don't use those. And they're like, why? And it was because of our conversations we had. And I never used one before. And I had it for like a second, literally a few weeks ago. I'm like, we're not doing this. I'm like, I don't like the terms. I'm like, wait, you want to see where I am, who I'm with, who my doctors are, when I'm not in the house, just so you can, in theory, book a link. So I don't have to just say, hey, these are the 3 dates and times I'm cool. Are you cool? And
you
2
bring
emails
up a
back
good
and forth.
point, though. Like, we as tech product developers, we have to build being cognizant of what data we are actually needed to collect versus what we are actually collecting. You know, we do not need to have your full name on your user profile. There's absolutely no reason. Most companies have no reason to have that. The only person who needs it is your payment portal, right? Like, they're the only ones that need your full name because they have to confirm your ID. The vast majority of companies are collecting way more data than they actually need. And the intent is to turn around and either sell it, or they're unaware and they're creating a honeypot for us to go in and get that data. I was at a conference just last week, actually, and it was an age tech conference, and somebody got up and had a fantastic product. I mean, it really solved a problem. And it is creating a place like a DocuSign that's secure on the cloud for you to save all of your important documents, your wills, Immediately, I'm like, oh, yeah, that solves a problem that people have. You know, when somebody dies, you have no idea where anything is. It's all cluster. You have no idea what the password is for the Wi-Fi.
Which is a terrible situation. Literally,
it is a honeypot waiting to happen where you're creating one spot where literally every single thing is collected. Your mortgage. I could ruin a life by getting into that.
This is why I have a box, because the only one who can get to my printed box is if you break into my house to come get it.
There you go.
I mean, which means it can be exposed, right? Unless it's a lockbox and someone's got a key.
The bears might get their hands on it.
The bears might get it.
Yeah,
but I'll give it to the bear. They can outline their toilet paper in the back. But
it's a prime example, right? It's a prime example of a product that they think they're doing something really great for people, but what they're doing is actually creating a huge problem.
With a bow.
Because it's going to get hacked. We know it will get hacked. It's inevitable. Everybody's going to. So you've created a honeypot for each of us to go steal that information.
We call that an attractive nuisance.
Yeah.
It's an attractive nuisance. You're going, you might as well put a big red flag of everybody's important. Everything is right here. Put a big old red button. Like, please come steal from me. I mean, and like you said, the intention is good. But,
and I was sitting at the table with the CEO and like his son, who had his laptop out and then got up and walked away from his laptop. And I just sat there and I was like, honey, oh my Lord. If this had been a cybersecurity conference, they would have been hacked in 2 seconds. I mean, 2 seconds flat.
We would have put a horrific image as a...
I was going to say, his desktop image would have been...
We used to practice on idiots that would go to cybersecurity. That was where we practiced hacking. At conferences. Because it was like, if you're a cybersecurity practitioner and you're here, you should know. So we're going to hack you if we can.
Exactly. Yeah.
I have never understood anyone who's ever just left their laptop out anywhere. Ever. I've always been like, I'm going to the bathroom. It comes to the bathroom in my wheelie bag. Like, I just take the time, I pack it all up. I know it's not convenient, but I'm not leaving it.
Though I don't leave my computer anywhere. I mean, and honestly, it was quite funny because about an hour later they realized who I was when they were introduced to me. And then the lady's like, she's a hacker. And I like laughed because you should have seen his face. And I was like, yeah, you walked away from your laptop, dude.
Yeah. I was saying, you should have given him a look, just a little like, right there.
Like you welcome.
I mean, but that is the CEO.
Might want to check your parent drive later.
CEO of a company that is collecting retirees' mortgages and their wills and everything in one spot.
Yeah, no, that's a bow. That's asking.
That when I go to these competitions for other startups, because you're in just a field of other companies at your same area, I'm surrounded by AI wrappers and all of these things. And half of them are sharing like protected health information with an AI wrapper. Like, I mean, it's just shocking to me that they think it's like a really great idea. It's wonderful. But I'm sitting there going, oh my God, the liability of that one. What are we doing? And I'm the only one in the room that thinks that way, though. And that's what terrifies me.
And you're also the negative Nelly.
I am.
Right? It's the classic
I'm the negative Nelly. I'm worried about everything.
Don't tell who brought the cops, right? And then it's just like, get this person out of the right, like get this person out of the room. Boo, who's that man?
Exactly right.
And it's just like, no, I'm not taking crazy pills. You're like you said,
y'all are all taking crazy pills.
You're going to put
just not paying attention.
I mean, but that's
China in an agent. without first, like, you listen, you
Well,
gotta
and
walk me there
the
first. You
funny
gotta
thing
say, these are
is
the guardrails.
they're
This
winning.
is, yeah.
They're getting the customers. They're getting the funding.
That
You
was
know,
We're
percent.
selling
I
the convenience. That's
Yep.
why.
watched a mental health app, literally for people with eating disorders and things like that, to communicate with an AI buddy, entirely an AI wrapper on cloud. I mean, I just sat in the back of the room thinking, this is like one giant liability lawsuit waiting to happen. I mean,
100%.
absolutely massive. And they'll be out of business within a number of years because of it.
But
And
if they're
they
out of
won.
business, Kat, but let's follow that thread, because that's a huge point that I think you walked into. When they go out of business, where the hell does all that data
They
go?
sell it.
That's
They
right.
sell it.
Bingo.
It's another revenue stream when they get out. You know,
Just like 23andMe, right?
Oh,
They went bankrupt.
prime
Somebody bought
example.
all our DNA. Off it goes. Yeah, it's
Yeah, you didn't think they would sell your data when you signed up for that, did you?
They said they could.
100%.
though.
You should have.
They said
I
they
mean,
could in the AUPs that nobody reads.
no,
That's right.
exactly.
That's right.
Terms and
That's the
conditions.
point. And that, I mean, right back to my ingredient label on food, we can clearly see what they put in our food. Then why are we not
They've changed that too,
Okay,
but
all
mostly,
right, but you
yeah.
know what I mean. At
But
least
yeah, I'm
enough
with you. Yeah, they
to
used
make
to, but
informed decisions.
correct.
But now we don't have that, and AUPs are not a way to inform your customers. You're claiming you're informing. The other thing that bothers me about all of this is when a company is breached and they have a data breach, the fact that they inform you and send you a letter 8 months later because their lawyers told you, okay, you can go ahead and send that letter now, pisses me off so much, because that is so beyond the time frame of you being able to do anything about it.
That's right.
And that's the other thing,
That's
like when we hire on the tech side, like software development kits or whatever, and you're installing these things on your back end, you don't know what those are collecting either, right? So you're installing things even in your product that could be collecting data and sending it back to another company, you know?
yeah, it's
We have no regulations in this area. None. It's ridiculous.
well, we really don't. So an issue that came up, funny enough, this week, helping another friend, had sold a vehicle to a a, a car company, we'll say, right, like one of the dealerships, and they promised that it's one of those cars that you can log in and it has your profile and it goes into the car, and of course it has your phone book, your whereabouts, all of your personal comings and goings, the car history, whatever, the whole thing. So when the car was sold to this third party vendor, they promised, hey, we will wipe the data. They didn't. It was still showing up on this person's app, and saw that the car went from here, like from their state to another state. And that state, somebody started checking out when they logged in. She was able to then see that they were seeing all of her info still a month later, after she had sent a notice in writing to their lawyer saying, hey, all, I'm still connected. You need to delete all of this data. You said it would be wiped. It's not been wiped. And then all of a sudden, people from that other state start checking out her social media profiles. Oh, did we just lose Omar?
We did. I have to jump. Getting pulled in.
Goodness gracious. Okay. See, and that is
Have an
cyber.
emergency.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That
Well, we're at an hour anyway.
yeah, and I'm not even sure. And we'll clean up some of this. So, but the long story short on that is, even after a month of being on notice, all they sent back eventually, once they finally, we think, disconnected it, was like, and it's clearly didn't learn their lesson. So the senior paralegal sends a letter to her just saying, oh, they brought it in, we cleared it out. Now this is a month and a half since the notice type of thing. And says, we cleared it out. Here's the proof of the service slip. And what do they give? All of the PII of the new owner of the vehicle, the phone number, the address, the full name. I'm looking at this going,
telling you what,
they just don't learn.
We have absolutely no regulation for them to have to follow either, right? So, like, I mean, it's just a crapshoot at this point. It's like, what do they feel like doing? Okay, that's fine, I guess.
Yeah,
let's be honest. We have all these companies that are advertising that they're going to clean your info off of the dark web and they're going to stop the data brokers, but they can only do that from the ones that are willing to remove the data, right?
I mean, you're chasing ghosts.
You are at this point. I mean, the underlying issue has to be focused on, not the individual.
Right.
I don't know how that's going to, be solved. I get that question a lot. Well, how do we actually fix this problem? I have no clue. I really want it to be fixed.
I wish there was an answer. All we can do is learn to be more vigilant and be more transparent about what we're doing, be mindful about what we're allowing, and just make educated decisions and use our critical thinking skills to go, does this feel right? Does this feel wrong? Does this
Trust
seem...
your gut.
Trust your gut. In fact, most of us have forgotten how to do that because we're so in tune with the beeps and the dings and the automatic reaction. And I
Well,
have to
and
do this faster
they're
behavior,
they're built in a specific way to force you into doing a specific action, right? Even
Correct.
an onboarding for an app, they are walking you through an onboarding in a degree where you're going to agree to the settings that they want just because you're like, okay, I'm fucking done with this. Just push me. Like I just
That's
want to
right.
accept and get into it. And they do it on purpose. So let's accept this and this and this and all that's just bundled up. And then you're screwed.
That's exactly it. You're 100% right. I mean, so one last not funny story, but like I'm the reason that a local very large hospital changed their policies because I was sitting there while I was waiting for a medical procedure one day, like diagnostic stuff. And I'm reading it and I'm like, wait a minute, you're going to sell my information to where? And you're going to do what with my cells? And I'm like, nope, crossed it out, initialed. I'm like, nope, not allowed. Not. And I went through the whole thing and they look at it and they're like, we don't know what to do with that. I said, well, I'm not agreeing
Sorry.
to those things. Right. And so the next thing I know, they had approved it for that one time, but then they changed their policy to say, and if you opt out of any of this, you can't have services here. So you are now being forced to
So you
allow
have
them.
to. Well, and there you go. And your insurance only covers services at certain places. So then you're
Correct.
limited to only being able to go to certain places and
So
they
you're forced
require
to give up
this.
your
So you're
privacy.
just effed.
That's right.
That's what I'm talking about, forcing people digital. Like you're forcing people to accept things. You're forcing people into systems that are not prepared for them or not protecting them in the least.
Right. Choice is an illusion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And honest to God, like all of these systems, hospital systems, education systems, they are so ripe for hacking and they're not that hard to get in. And
Right.
it's just sad that we don't do anything about it, honestly.
Nope. And that honestly, so on that point, like when we're with Mettle that we had talked about offline, which is our new nonprofit, we're looking at working with small organizations and community services. And so we are looking at syncing up with smaller medical providers in these underserved population areas that we know do not have the right privacy policies in place, that do not have the guardrails to try to help prevent that, right? So the things we can do is work in our communities, try to access that,
Right.
educate as you already do, educate as best we can, have the conversations, try to get them up to
Those
speed
companies
with
that
the
don't
resources.
require SOC 2 compliance, so they're not going through all of that stuff, and they don't realize how much some of those things are needed. The every computer and phone being on an MDM. I mean, it is a given that people have cell phones, and they are going to come to your business and they're going to use the Wi-Fi network. If your employee is connecting with their cell phone to the same network that your computer system is on, you are setting yourself up for failure unless all of it is on the same protection system. I think people just don't think about that. And now that small businesses are the number 2 target, they need to be more aware.
That's
It's
right.
so much easier to hack into things now.
And that's what we're hoping to kind of, at least on some scale, be able to start working towards that process to try to make a difference in that area with Mettle as we put those teams in. Well, Kat, is there anything else you want to add for this episode that you can think of that we should share with the audience?
Ranting during.
But it's all, you know what? It's real conversation. It's all helpful information. It puts it in a context that I think anyone, whether you have a tech background or you don't, listening to this will understand and be able to say, you know what, there's some nuggets in here and I understand the frustration that all of us have with this, and maybe get them to think and maybe start questioning things a bit more.
Hopefully.
And so we are so grateful to have you here as part of this.
Absolutely.
I'll include the Zora, ZoraSafe.com link in our summary as well, so people know where to come take a look. Like you said, you had some free resources on there as well.
Yeah.
And information. So it is absolutely worth people checking out. And as we like to always say when Omar is here, as you know, cybersecurity stuff happens. Sometimes they have to disappear. Omar had to go take care of business. So as he normally says, we hope you keep it cyber metal.
So. Keep it cyber metal. I like that.
Keep it cyber
All
metal.
right.
So, well, thank you so much, Kat. I know this is
No
recording,
worries.
but he'll clip it. Sounds good.